Guys, remember, if you want to buy anything at the Chelsea Mega Store this summer, use the link in the description and use the discount code GBFC10 for 10% off your order. Let's get into the video. Lovely black coffee on a Saturday morning. Yes, guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson Football Channel for your Saturday dose of Chelsea news. The double uploads, they're still coming in thick and fast throughout this Chelsea transfer window this summer. Make sure you are subscribed to GBFC, and if you do enjoy the videos, hitting the like button, it actually does go a long way. YouTube see it as engagement, and it keeps boosting the channel to more Chelsea fans, and we're closing in on 350,000 subscribers. Today, in the Saturday news, we are going to talk in a bit more detail about Nicholas Jackson, because at the minute, right, my feelings on Nicholas Jackson keep on waning here and there. And I want to kind of delve into Jackson a bit more, because I think that the level of criticism he gets, I don't think is warranted to the level that he gets it at. And obviously, we've all been swayed by the red cards. We've been swayed by the great starts to life at Chelsea for both Delap and João Pedro. But I kind of want to just iron a few things out today. But before we get into that, this is also very relevant to the Nicholas Jackson news. UEFA has warned Chelsea and Aston Villa on inflated player swap deals and has told both clubs they will be looking at any future deals closely. Some rivals have viewed such deals as a way of artificially increasing income to help with PSR. Now, first things first, okay? The more we see what the Chelsea ownership have done since they've come to the football club, you can see that loopholes would be a word that you would describe a lot of the activity as. Is it breaking the law? No. Is it getting around the laws and regulations? Yes. Chelsea and Aston Villa are two clubs that have received fines from UEFA in recent times. So let's take a little look at this article from Martin Ziegler, who, again, any opportunity to criticise Chelsea for any wrongdoing, these guys are always on it. But anyway, UEFA warns Chelsea and Villa on inflated player swap deals. Premier League rivals view transactions as artificially increasing transfer income to help comply with PSR rules. UEFA has made it clear to Chelsea and Aston Villa that it will scrutinise any player swap deals to ensure the fees have not been inflated after taking issue with at least one previous transfer. The practice of two clubs paying significant transfer fees to each other with a player moving in either direction has taken place involving several teams in the Premier League in recent seasons. Now, this is where I get frustrated about this, because obviously it's the same for me on YouTube. It's the same for journalism, right? We all want to get as many views as possible, as many clicks as possible. Like, to say that you don't want people to watch your stuff would be a lie. So people could clip that out of context all they like, whatever. Chelsea, yes, we have done some of these business transactional swap deals for PSR with Aston Villa, but let's not forget that you could mention all of the other Premier League clubs' names too. Just saying, would be nice, instead of just, having that sandwiched in the middle there. But anyway, some rivals have viewed such deals as a way of artificially increasing transfer income to help comply with profitability and sustainability rules, and UEFA revealed earlier this month that it knocked back the value of at least one deal involving both Chelsea and Villa. Then they've gone on to use a picture here of Ian Martin. Chelsea have a settlement agreement with UEFA which runs for the next 4 seasons, and Villa for the next 3, after they breached its financial rules, which are tougher than the Premier League's in terms of permitted losses. It is understood that UEFA will continue to look at all such swap deals, but given that Chelsea and Villa are subject to those settlement agreements, it will be looking closely at those clubs. After announcing heavy fines for Chelsea and Villa this month, UEFA said it had looked at transactions involving the exchange of players and that those required specific adjustments to the club's financial result. Now, obviously here, this is related to Omari Kellerman for 19 million, but the 19-year-old is yet to play for Chelsea. Of course, we know this. Omari Kellerman, 19 million. I remember where I was. I was sat there thinking, who is this? Why have we spent 19 million quid on him? And of course, as a result of that, 37.5 million was the fee that came in for Ian Martin, who, however, played 45 times for Aston Villa last season. So it's not like Ian Martin has gone there for double the price pretty much of what we bought Omari Kellerman for and not played. Omari Kellerman has also been out injured. Although I think correctly so, he probably wouldn't have featured for Chelsea. Both Chelsea and Villa have agreed that if they breach the settlement agreements, they will be banned from European competition for a season. I mean, how are you going to get around this, all right? If you're going to bring in these PSR rules, which, fair enough, I understand what's being trying to be achieved here. You don't want to have all of the crazy rich owners having their clubs just leagues and leagues above. You want to keep things on a relatively level playing field. But I feel like instead of threatening clubs with this, right, surely everything that is changed should be done on a voting system. Most of these Premier League clubs that are like, oh, look at what Aston Villa and Chelsea are doing. That doesn't look right, does it? I'm sure if the opportunity will arise for these clubs, then potentially they will be looking to do the same, such as Chelsea selling their women's team for what looks to many like an inflated price, Aston Villa following suit. So look, I don't like the way that this is always reported. Chelsea and Villa are in the headlines. Of course they are. But this is happening a lot in the Premier League, and PSR is making things very difficult for a lot of clubs, granted, despite what is the intention? Do you know what I mean? That's always the question that I believe should be asked. In the process of all of these discussions, it just so happens that this summer, we are talking about inflated prices again, potentially, between Chelsea and Aston Villa. And of course, this is in relation to Nicholas Jackson and Morgan Rogers. So, I want to talk to you guys a little bit now about Nicholas Jackson, because I feel as though this is a deal that I'm so 50-50 about the potential of selling Jackson or keeping Jackson. And I feel like I've kind of just been like dipping in and out of this topic all week. I've spoken about it quite a lot, but I think we've got to take a look at what Nicholas Jackson has achieved at Chelsea so far. So we've gone on to Transfermarkt, and this is the overall statistics of Nicholas Jackson in the Premier League at Chelsea. 65 games played, over 5,000 minutes, 24 goals and 10 assists. So 34 goal contributions in 65 Premier League matches. There is also 10 yellow cards, and of course that famous red that we saw against Newcastle too. So top line here, just focusing on the Premier League, this is a guy that scores. This is a guy that contributes assists to the team, and he's also got a pretty bad disciplinary record. That is like at least a booking every, 3 or 4 games, which over the course of the season is going to get you suspended. So when it comes to Nicholas Jackson last season in particular, I think the club failed Nicholas Jackson last season because I think he needed to have another striking option to push him. And I feel as though what we've seen with João Pedro and Liam Delap coming in, if Nicholas Jackson were to stay, then that pressure that is on Jackson's shoulders, whether he can handle it or not, I'm going to say that he struggled to handle that pressure of not having a backup striker at the football club. Yes, there was Nkunku. Yes, there was Mark Guiu, but these guys aren't recognised as out-and-out strikers by Enzo Maresca. So it was either Nicholas Jackson or bust, really, for Chelsea last year. So at the same time as me being excited about Delap and João Pedro, I don't know if going into the season with 2 recognised strikers is a good idea for Chelsea Football Club, particularly when João Pedro's only played 2 games as a starter for Chelsea. Yes, he's a self-proclaimed striker, but we don't have a load of data to go and look at from João Pedro as a striker over the course of a 38 season, bagging in tons of goals. And Liam Delap, as good as I think he is, he got relegated with Ipswich last season and only scored 12. So those numbers aren't, yes, we're going to win a Premier League title, which is obviously what the overall dream would be, but the goal should be to challenge. And we've heard this week that it is just to get back in the top 4. Obviously, consolidating top 4 is big, but as fans, we want to see the team challenge. So, this is where my qualm goes in as to whether or not we sell Nicholas Jackson. Because Aston Villa and Manchester United are the teams here that are linked with Nicholas Jackson. So I don't necessarily think we should bring in what we spoke about at the start of this video regarding this conversation with Jackson. But do we have enough firepower to compete on all fronts? We're in the Carabao Cup, Champions League, FA Cup, with only Delap and João Pedro as recognised strikers. And this is the big gamble that is currently the most difficult one to weigh up. Because if Nicholas Jackson really is going to be the third choice striker at Chelsea this season, and Chelsea are currently talking about figures in excess of 90 million, 100 million. What happens to Nicholas Jackson's value at the end of next season if he's hardly been playing football? So I think the dilemma right now for Chelsea is, look, if Man United, Aston Villa are knocking on the door, then that is going to be the price. And I don't think Chelsea should be looking at anything lower than 80 million right now for Nicholas Jackson, because who are we going to go out there and buy in the market to replace those goal contributions? Yeah, you might get it from Delap, you might get it from Pedro, but don't we want to be going into this season knowing that the squad has got more quality in depth than last season? And as much as I believe Delap and Pedro are big elevations on the quality front up front for Chelsea, I just am really, really concerned that with only two top recognised strikers at the club, what if one of them gets injured? What if what we've seen in the early stages from Delap and Pedro is a flash in the pan? I don't think it's going to be. I'm just purely saying this, that we can't just take 2.5, 3, 4 matches of data and be like, yeah, we don't need Nicholas Jackson anymore. I think that would be a really, really poor decision. It is going to be up about the price, right? It's going to be, are Manchester United willing to pay probably above the market value? Jackson's market value online, according to Transfermarkt, is 50 million euros. Chelsea are not going to bat an eyelid at an offer like that. We're not going to be interested in it whatsoever. So how much would Manchester United or Aston Villa go for him for? And in the process of all of this, would we then need another striker? That is the main thing that I'm thinking about here when I'm formulating my thoughts and feelings on selling Nicholas Jackson. I'm not convinced this is a good idea whatsoever. And even though people are like, yeah, but he doesn't score loads, he doesn't assist loads, that's still pretty good numbers, double figures in his first 2 seasons at Chelsea. Now the pressure's kind of off because we've got other options, and he's got a lot of building up to do in terms of trust again, not only for Maresca, but for the fans and everybody involved. Because look, he almost managed to cost us top 4. He almost cost us in the Club World Cup with 2 moments of just ridiculous petulance, which showed his inexperience and how much pressure was on his shoulders. Can he handle it? Maybe not. So if an offer would have come in for a player like that for 80, 90 million, then I think Chelsea it would be too good for us to refuse. But then what do we have to replace those goals? I still think then we might even have to look at another striker. And obviously we've got this model of we don't sign older players. Like, would we then go for an older striker and just have him as a backup? Would Mark Guiu be ready to be the third choice striker? Do we keep Nkunku? There is so many dilemmas with this one, and I feel like this is one of the hardest pieces of business that Chelsea are going to have to do this summer, because even if you sell Jackson and then get Morgan Rogers is not a number 9. He definitely scores goals, we know that, and I think over the course of what we are seeing with this window, we have now got goals coming from different areas of the pitch. Neto scoring, Enzo Fernandez started scoring, the interpersonal relationships between the Pedros, the Palmers, maybe the Estevals. All of this is going to make Chelsea more fluid in attack, but I also feel like Nicholas Jackson can absolutely fit within that a little bit. So much to think about here, but I would not be rushing to sell Nicholas Jackson right now unless the money is too good, purely off the idea that if he isn't going to get much football this season, what would the money be next year when he'd want to leave the club? I don't think Jackson would want to leave. I think Jackson wants to stay and prove that he can be Chelsea's striker. And that is everything that I want right now. I want players that want to be here, players that want to fight, and players that have got enough competition for places that they are ready to give it everything. So let me know your thoughts on Nicholas Jackson. I feel as though over the course of the week when I've watched my videos back, I've kind of been like dipping in and out of the topic a little bit and not giving it as much time as I would have liked to. So hopefully giving a bit more of a rounded approach today. The next piece of news, Renato Vega is on the shortlist for Atletico Madrid, who Chelsea value at 30 to 35 million euros. Again, this would be another piece of business where now that we're into the 4th season of this whole project and idea, we're going to start to see players now that do get sold for about double the value Chelsea bought them for. And some of them we might be like, he's pretty good. We don't have any backup there. Chelsea are in for another left back. Is it going to be Joel Hatto? What we're going to do? Again, if we don't do anything, ridiculous. You don't sell Renato Vega. I'm sure Chelsea are looking in that position. The final story of the day, this one isn't going away, and I have 100% completely changed my mind and view on Malo Gusto. Bayern Munich chasing Chelsea defender Malo Gusto. If you'd have asked me this 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I'd be like, yeah, all right. If the price is right, sell him. I don't think he fits Enzo Maresca's system. If you saw the video that I posted this morning, where we talk a little bit about Enzo Maresca's new tactics moving into the season, what did we see against PSG? How were Chelsea so dominant against PSG? Malo Gusto is so important for that. Because what Gusto can do, that unfortunately I don't think Reece James can as much anymore, is that bombing up and down traditional fullback role. Gusto was absolutely amazing in that game against PSG. Even in the semi-final, I thought Gusto was fantastic. And moving forward, I think we've just got a glimpse of something that gets the best out of him. And the only reason I wanted to sell Gusto is because I didn't think he fitted in the way that Maresca wanted to play. Now Maresca's bringing out new systems, bringing out new tactics, new ways of playing. Malo Gusto is so important for that. So yes, I've flip-flopped again. I've changed my mind. I want Chelsea to keep Malo Gusto. The only thing I would say here is I do think Josh Achampong could do that, but it's the same kind of conversation as what we're talking about with Jackson. Do we want to risk going into the season low on numbers when the squad is looking really good right now? Yes, we've still got sales to make. Yes, there's still players that need to be moved on and a couple of signings that need to come in. But selling Gusto, who's just shown in a World Cup final, helping us win a trophy, how important he is. Yeah, it might be a little bit of profit, but I don't want to be entertaining this. Don't go sending him to Bayern, who would then help them, and we want to win the Champions League. I want Gusto to stay now. I can absolutely see him starting a lot of football next season. And I think it's taken some time, but Maresca's finally found the way to get the best out of him. So I don't want to see this happen at all. But anyway, going to wrap up this Saturday news video for you guys now. A little bit of talk about Uefa swap deals and all that stuff. Nicholas Jackson, Vega, and Malo Gusto. Let me know your thoughts on all of the stories in the comments down below. And I will see you on Sunday for another video. Come on, you Blues.